Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we've got big news, ladies and gentlemen. We have got, yes, actually, our first news of OP-14. Yeah, that's right. Apparently, OP-14 is now being teased. Distributors are starting to get their first news of it, and that means we need to talk about it. It's important. This stuff matters. So what have we got from OP-14? Well, we do actually have a release date of the 16th of January 2026. Yes, we are 9 months in the future here. Yeah, sorry about that. But that's where we are, all right? I'm bringing you all the One Piece news as we get it. And this is news which has just come out about OP-14. And my rule for news is really simple. I am a big One Piece TCG nerd. So my rule is, if I look at news and I'm like, oh, I want to know about this, well, there we go. I'm going to show you about it because, well, if I want to know about it, I kind of assume you guys do as well. So, OP-14, what are we told other than the January release? Well, this is where things get very interesting. OP-14 is themed around the Seven Warlords of the Sea. We'll get to that more in a moment. Each includes one box topper, 1 card per pack, 6 types in total. Hang on a second. It's been a long time since we got box toppers for the One Piece TCG. I remember the Perona box topper from Romance Dawn. That was my favourite. I was delighted. But we had our box toppers for a while. This is pretty big. And some of you may have noticed I kind of jumped over the middle point there. Half of the EBO4 cards are included to prepare for the worldwide simultaneous release. Drumroll, please. EBO4 cards release first for the English version. Oh yes, we're getting some cards first, which is also going to be, well, it really depends how first we get them. Like, if we get them 2 weeks before Japan, that's not going to be that interesting. If we get them a month or so, basically, are we going to have any decent-sized tournament in a different meta? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking for. I want to know, are we going to have a different metagame? Because when we had the simultaneous worldwide release announced, one of the big reactions we saw were competitive players going, finally. Because competitive players, and I do not blame them, I am one of them, they get very bored of going, hey, there's a new meta. Oh, Japan solved it before we got the cards. Brilliant. Because that happens. By the time we get the cards in English, Japan's been playing in the meta for weeks or months, and they basically have figured out what's actually good and what isn't, and it, well, to put it simply, ruins the fun for the rest of us. Whereas if we're getting it before Japan, then that means we get to solve it first, or at the same time, still the same deal. Love it. Big fan. Now, this also helps to explain, essentially, how we're going to get the simultaneous worldwide release. Part of it is probably going to be that we get our releases a little bit squished together. We get some sets with a smaller gap than we would generally get, so that we get them faster. But also things like this. It seems like we're not actually getting EBO4 as a set. That's what I'm seeing here. Now, this gets a little bit awkward because obviously EBO2 is the next set out. EBO1 was out a while ago. We've not even seen news of EBO3, and yet we're talking about EBO4. And the reason essentially is because EBO3 is going to be announced in Japan at some point, but we're, like I say, 9 months in the future, and we're getting EBO4 first, and that's why we're hearing about it now. But it seems like EBO4 will not be its own thing for us. We are going to be getting it. I mean, half are going to be in here. Presumably the other half will be in like OP-15 or something. So it's going to be weird. We should, and this is pure speculation on my part, cannot stress this enough, but my guess would be we get half of EBO4 in OP-14 before Japan, and the second half of EVO4 in OP-15 after Japan. Or maybe at the same time as. Probably after. But the point is, we're going to be getting it, in two halves. And this is one of the ways they do. And if you were around for the beginning of the Digimon TCG, we saw this. There were special boosters. And basically, the way the special boosters worked were 3 sets in 2 packs. And they did that to basically, push things along a little bit faster. That was the goal. And I know it took a long time after this for Digimon to actually get up to speed, but that was a way, at least initially, of going, all right, yeah. And if you look in the top left-hand corner, BTO1 to BTO3, so we had the special boosters, 1.0 and 1.5, and then BTO4 came around as the actual set, which made perfect sense. It was just a way of, we weren't catching up with Japan initially. That wasn't the plan. But it was basically our way of going, we're not going to be too far behind. So that's big news. The other big news here is Seven Warlords of the Sea. Nice. It's a good theme for a set. Now, this is where we need to start getting a little bit tricksy, because you go, well, hang on a second. Who are the Seven Warlords of the Sea? Because actually, there's 12 of them. Now, I took this graphic from OnePiece.fandom.com. Shout out to them. Very good website. I use it regularly for looking up One Piece related trivia, checking up on characters and reminding myself of, peculiarities of storylines and things along those lines. But you can see that we've actually got, over time, 12 Seven Warlords of the Sea. And we've got Dracula, Mihawk, Bartholomew Kuma, Boa Hancock, Buggy, a more recent addition, Edward Weavile, again a bit more recent, Hanafuda, Crocodile, Gecko Moria, Trafalgar Law, Don Quixote do Flamingo, Jinbei, and Marshall D. Teach. If I had to guess, and I cannot stress enough, we are just talking guess here, but my guess would be, if we were going for the Seven Warlords here, which we are, that it would be like, for instance, the Treasure Cup playmat, the classic, if you will, Seven Warlords of the Sea, which is Gecko Moria, Don Quixote do Flamingo, Dracula, Mihawk, Crocodile, Jinbei, Boa Hancock, and Bartholomew Kuma. That is not confirmed. We are not given information as to which configuration of the Seven Warlords of the Sea it is, but that would be my guess. Now, the other potential here is that they go for the current Seven Warlords of the Sea, which would be possible if the Seven Warlords of the Sea still existed canonically, but of course they don't. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, they're not a thing right now. It is also worth noting that we got the Seven Warlords of the Sea binder set revealed recently, and if we have a look at the 12 promo cards from there, we double up on Boa Hancock, but you'll notice that with the exception, and there is one exception here, but with the exception of Hanafuda, for fairly obvious reasons, the other 11 are all there. All the Warlords are actually represented in this little pack, even Buggy, who of course is one of the more recent ones. So we've got Edward Weavile, Bartholomew Kuma, Crocodile, Mihawk, Law, Doflamingo, the 2 Hancock, Jinbei, Moria, Buggy, and Teach. They're all actually there. So it may well be that rather than going for a more traditional, here are the classic Seven Warlords of the Sea, Bandai just go, they were all Warlords at one point, okay? Let's just use all of them. That is absolutely a potential here. And look, bunch of these have had leaders. They have not all had leaders. Yes, we know that the Doflamingo from back in OP-01, I mean, it was great back in OP-01, fell off a little bit, got a bunch of new cards, and now one of the very best decks in the game. The Boa Hancock from OP-07, it's not as good now as it has been in the past, admittedly, but let's not pretend that's not a very cool deck. Obviously, we got the Buggy back in OP-09, which has proven to be very cool. Not quite wrecking the format like it could, but still very, very cool. We had a Trafalgar Law back in Starter Deck 10 that was so good they literally had to ban the leader, which I think tells you quite a bit about that. You know, a bunch of these have had leaders. Crocodile's had a couple, although neither of them have actually ended up being that good. But they haven't all had leaders. We've not had a Bartholomew Kuma leader yet. We've not had a Dracula Mihawk leader. I mean, technically, we've also not had an Edward Weevil leader, but I don't think anyone's going to be rushing for that now, are they? I don't know, maybe I'm being mean. I've just never seen that character as terribly popular. The point I'm making is, maybe we get some of these new characters coming through as leaders. Maybe we get some leaders here which, well, we never had before. That would be quite cool, right? This is all pure speculation, let's be clear, but I do think it's kind of interesting. It's also important to note, Crocodile had 2 leaders in the first 4 sets and hasn't had a leader card since. So, I feel like it's overdue for a Crocodile leader, right? Wait, there were 3 because we also had the starter deck Crocodile. We had 3 Crocodile leaders by the time we got to OP-04, and yet we haven't had a Crocodile leader since. That's weird. And I know you could argue that Crocodile features very prominently in the early stages of the One Piece saga, but then not really after. I don't care, all right? I want a new Crocodile leader. Please, can I have a new Crocodile leader? And obviously, everybody wants a Bartholomew Kuma leader, because Kuma is awesome. And no one wants an Edward Weevil leader, because nobody likes Edward Weevil. Or maybe I'm just being mean at this point. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions, and everything else about this in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.